Welcome to the Construction Network's latest live event. My name's Grant Hamilton. I'm one of the facilitators of the Construction Network, and today we're looking at apprentices. Now, the main reason we've done this is that over the past few weeks and months, and on our Facebook and LinkedIn page, we see loads of you saying, "How can I get an apprentice? Where can I get an apprentice? Anybody know where I can get an apprentice?" So what we've done today is we've brought you a couple of experts who can actually help you to navigate your way around the apprenticeship. What would call it, a maze? I think we'd call it a maze. So I'd like to introduce you to Nikki Davis. Nikki is the principal of the Leeds College of Building College, and Carla Prickett, who is the senior customer engagement manager for the CITB in the northeastern Yorkshire. Is that right? Is that right, Carla?
And Humber, yes.
And Humber.
Just so we've got everybody covered.
I'm sure that's. I'll apologise to people in the Humber now. Okay. So what I'd like to do just for a couple of minutes is tell us a little bit about your role, kind of what you do. Can we start with you, Nikki?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So as you said, my name is Nikki Davis, Principal and CEO at Leeds College of Building. For those of you that know the college or don't, we are the only college in the country that specialises in construction and the built environment. And I think the important thing to recognise is the breadth of what we do. So the vast majority of colleges will focus on trade areas and services. Whereas at the college, because of the breadth of the specialism, we offer a lot of technical areas as well. So that will include quantity surveying, civil engineering, transport planning, those really sort of much wider career opportunities for young people. My other role, which is important to recognise today, is I'm the chair of the West Yorkshire Consortium of Colleges. That's a consortium of 7 colleges across West Yorkshire who are working in collaboration to support anyone who's in further education. It's not just young people, but anyone from 16 onwards who are accessing apprenticeships, study programmes, adult education, and a whole range of other bespoke courses, including higher education, which is an important part of colleges. And our aim is to make sure that we're supporting the workforce and developing the workforce of the future for the various industries that the colleges support, and obviously today being construction. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks, Nikki. Right, Carla, do you want to give us a little bit of a pen picture of yourself?
Yeah, not a problem. So my name's Carla Prickett. I'm the Senior Customer Engagement Manager, as said, obviously for CITB. So my overarching role is about trying to link, obviously, strategy for construction and operations for construction. So what that means kind of in general is that we are driving as much as possible opportunities in terms of building opportunity for recruitment. We are looking obviously at building skills and training, and we're looking to make sure that we've got the right, obviously, people to come into the industry for you employers, obviously, to recruit from. And we know there's obviously a huge piece of work that we need to do to obviously work on that. So today what I'm going to do is obviously share how we are trying to tackle that, and obviously some of the opportunities that will hopefully help you as employers to move forward, certainly in the apprenticeship arena. It's so important to note as well that we work really closely and collaboratively with obviously the likes of Nikki and the Building College, but obviously we work with all the colleges across all of the regions obviously that I am responsible for. And so obviously we can make sure that we can link and make partnership approaches for customers like you in terms of apprenticeships.
Okay, thanks, Carla. If anybody has any points they want to make or wants to ask a question, you can put them in the chat. Hopefully Emily, who's adminning all this, will be able to give us those. If we can't answer them today, we will answer them. We will get back to you, and I think Carla has a presentation which we'll make available on the feed as well, so you can have a look at it. And obviously we're recording this, so you can come back and have a look at it any time. So what we're going to look at today is really how to get an apprentice. I think that's the first thing. I think a lot of companies don't actually know how to do it. As I said at the start, we see a lot of things on our feeds to say, anybody know where I can get an apprentice? So like I said, Nikki, can we start with you? Can you give us some of the options of where people can go and look? Because I think sometimes a lot of especially owner MDs, tend to think it's your job or the CITB's job to find them an apprentice, and it's not really, is it?
No, it's not, and it's an important point because an apprenticeship is a job with training. So you have to have the job. So, and as you know, if you're running a business, you select the people that you are wanting to employ, and then you're sending them to the college or the training provider for the 20% off the job training. 80% of the time they are at the workplace. So that's an important distinction. And yes, the colleges and other agencies will support in trying to match students to employers, and where there are opportunities, we can advertise those. But I think it's important to know that there are a whole range of ways of engaging with training providers, colleges, that the apprenticeship may not be the starting point. You know, it's important that you build a relationship with the training provider, and so that they get to understand your business, and you get to understand how the college environment works. So for employers, for us, we have about 800 employers that we work with across, and that ranges from the vast majority being micro and SME through to large national companies. Lots of employers come into the college as the starting point, and some deliver demonstrations on different kit. They deliver masterclasses to students. That could just be an hour session that's delivered directly to students on new techniques or new technology that's in the industry. We're very keen to engage with employers on curriculum developments, so making sure that what we actually deliver is right for the industry. There's always a lag in technology in particular between what's being used in industry and that feeding through from qualifications. But actually, if we're aware of what those things are, we can build them into curriculum. So engaging with the colleges and training providers in a way that says, actually, you might use a certain technique out on site. Why aren't we teaching that in the college? And come in and have those conversations with us. We'd really appreciate that. I know colleges will. Supporting site visits. If students can come out to your sites, whether that's a half day, just to have the visit and gain that exposure. Again, it's an opportunity to engage with the students and start to identify the types of students that you want to take on as an apprentice. And also work placements. I mean, that's almost the try before you commit to taking on an apprentice. And there are various models of work placements, and they can range from 1 day to the most extensive one is T-level industry placements, which is a 315-hour commitment to taking that student on. What we're finding with our T-level students is the vast majority of them are being taken on as apprentices at the end of the T-level. So it's really leading to that development of knowing the student, knowing how you can support them, and then they're taken on as an apprentice in the right areas. Some employers have taken on apprentices for years, and that engagement just sort of continues almost on a yearly basis, and that's absolutely great. But there are various starting points that people can access to engaging with the college. And I think from an external perspective, colleges are not that great at communicating. If we're completely honest, it's quite difficult to get through. But certainly if you have a named contact, then do go through that and just pick up the phone to us as well. It's an area that colleges are trying to improve on because working with employers is so vital. It's got to be a smooth process. I think that's all of the current opportunities. As I say, there's various ways of doing it, and there are starting points that most employers can engage with before they even consider taking on an apprentice to develop that relationship.
Yeah. I think you also have people in the college who are on traineeships, so they don't have do you still do traineeships where people are doing the training but don't have a job?
Yeah, traineeships have been sort of subsumed into the general study programme funding. Some colleges do run them, and they run them for adults as well as young people. Yeah. So lots of, so you don't have to have an industry placement with a young person. It could be somebody who's that bit older as well. So there are, traineeships are kind of just being not phased out, but they're part of the study programme. That's part of the simplification. Yeah.
Yeah, so they would be in the same classroom as somebody who's on an apprenticeship. They just don't have an employer. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
So they'll be going through the same program. They're just not being sponsored.
Yeah.
So that's something that we talk to our clients all the time about. Around, I'm trying to find an apprentice. Well, have you approached the local college?
Yeah.
Because they'll have people there who are actually, you know, like to learn in the role, but just don't have a sponsor. So that's thanks, Nikki. Right. So anyway, Carla, it's the CITB's job to find an apprentice, isn't it?
Of course it is, yes. And we have taken obviously this on board a little bit. So we do have a new team called the NEST team. So that's the new entrance support team. We were very mindful that small and micro companies, you know, trying to navigate the world of apprenticeships is tough for us that know, never mind obviously somebody that isn't obviously using it every day. So we do have a team that have basically has been live now for 12 months. We are growing the team, so obviously we're bringing in more advisors to do the work, and this is actually a support team for employers. Basically, if you are thinking about an apprentice, this is probably the first port of call, because not only will they help you kind of go through the application role, we can certainly signpost. We can't do it, we can't recruit an apprentice for you, but we can certainly help you navigate. And one of the things I just wanted to allude to here is that there's a number of platforms I think that you need to be mindful of. And so there's a platform called Talent View, which is purely for construction. That is an opportunity for you to post job vacancies, look at work experience opportunities, even internships, where if you are interested in looking at particular individuals, you can signpost your request on there, and obviously then local people who are in the area can obviously look to apply. We work closely with the colleges, and we ask that their full-time students certainly use that platform when they are finishing their qualifications to look for jobs and obviously apprenticeships. There's also one of the big things there that when I speak to companies, Indeed is still a really good platform for obviously applications. I literally had a conversation with a company in the Northeast who really rave about Indeed, that they can still do a really good job in terms of getting the right people into obviously you guys to review in terms of a job outcome. I think the other thing to bear in mind, and I think Nikki's alluded to this, is work experience. So there's absolutely the T-level model, which is really, really detailed and probably the best way to go in terms of having somebody that already has a substantial knowledge of the trade or the sector that you're looking to recruit to. But secondly, there's work experience opportunities, maybe from young people that weren't quite sure where they wanted to be. You know, and they might have done a multi-trade qualification. They might have maybe just not picked the right qualification initially, but have a lot of the behaviours and attributes that you'd be looking for. So there's work experience opportunities that we can support grant funding for. And that means that you as employers can take on those individuals and review, you know, have they got the skills? Have they got the right attitude that you want to take on? And obviously on the back of that, we are encouraging people then to employ them. And we are also grant funding that activity as well. Secondly, there's kind of another sort of pitch that I want to make, and that's actually about ambassadors, because I think one of the things that we can do better as an industry is to promote ourselves better. And we are absolutely doing a lot of work with different companies to give you the training to go out either into colleges, into schools, into certain arenas where you are sort of promoting you and your business to encourage people to obviously come into the industry or come into specific jobs. So that's something else that we are doing at CITB, that we are encouraging employees to work in partnership with. And finally, not everybody's going to like this one, but obviously social media is absolutely one of the key areas that we can improve how we share, shall we say, construction and job opportunities. And so Facebook and TikTok are where the young people hang out. So I think there's opportunities there, and we're looking at how we can help employers obviously navigate that arena as well.
It's like so nice to see the CITB helping companies to get down with the kids. I mean, so yeah, great. So
we do our best.
Absolutely, yeah. So actually, one of the other things we're going to look at, and you mentioned it earlier, Alexa, Nikki, was really sometimes you would need to understand where the apprentice is actually required, because I think too many companies just look at a trades apprentice, and I think you alluded earlier to the other apprenticeships like QS and estimating and stuff, you know, and I think that's an important point, because I think a lot of companies, especially a lot of SMEs, would only look at, I need a bricklayer, or I need a joiner, I need a tiler, I need a plasterer, I need a painter. Whereas, so I mean, what are the other typical roles that a owner MD might be undertaken. I mean, you know it as well as I do. He's surveying, he's quantity surveying, he's estimating.
Yeah.
So there's a potential for them to take an apprentice on, undertaking that role as well, isn't it? And ease their burden.
Yeah, absolutely. And there, as you say, there are a wide range of apprenticeship standards that have been developed to try and map across the whole breadth of construction. And there are those technical routes that go right through to degree apprenticeships for apprentices. And what we typically find on courses such as the civil engineering, the quantity surveying, we're developing ones at the moment around architectural technician and geospatial, which I'm assured is land surveying. But they're all hugely in demand skills. The largest vacancy at the moment nationally in the country for any job is quantity surveying. There just simply aren't enough, and the salaries that are being commanded in those areas are huge. So there is that real breadth. And what we worked on, particularly a couple of years ago, was a role that in the change from frameworks to standards had been kind of overlooked. And that was construction contracting operations, CCO. They may have renamed it in IFATE, but it was a level 3 qualification that was somebody who's going to be very useful on site in doing all of those roles that will support the business owner to free themselves up a little bit to manage the business. So it's not just the site ones that can be employed. There is a full range, and it gives those students a great opportunity as well to go right the way through to degree level with no debt. So it's a fantastic opportunity for them as well as the business.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic point, actually, that you can go through to university and come out with no debt.
Yeah.
So you don't have that hanging over your head. And I think we talk to a lot of our clients, especially around this point, when they say, well, we want an apprentice, and look at, well, where are actually the gaps in the company? Where are actually the areas you need to concentrate on, where you don't have somebody doing that job, or you're having to do the job along with everything else you're having to do. And I think that's an important point, and it's trying to get the owner MDs. I mean, we work with all of this to almost create their own little mini me. You know what I mean? Which will be somebody that they can nurture and like to look after, and it'll help them to retain them, because they'll have somebody who understands the business. So I would think, Carla, then that like, so does the NEST team that you have do that sort of kind of strategic look at the apprenticeship and where it's actually needed then?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the NEST role is to really look at what is the job role that the employer is looking to recruit to, and is it actually obviously a viable apprenticeship that they can do? Because one of the worst things obviously is to start on a journey and then not be able to obviously finish it. It's not good for the employer, it's not good for the apprentice, and obviously it's not good in terms of financial obviously support and certainly grant uptake either. So I think really in terms of the NEST team, they will really do that, what I would call that sort of quality control, that initial quality control, to make sure that, firstly, that an apprenticeship is the right route for the employer and the learner. Secondly, we can certainly source the right provision. So obviously that's one of the other things, is making sure that, one of the great things is we've got Leeds on the doorstep who do, a huge amount obviously of delivery. But if you're not in Leeds, then obviously you do need to feel comfortable that you've got good colleges and good provision, and we can absolutely make sure that we are putting you in touch with quality programs. And then the other part then is making sure that you've got the relevant grants, obviously, to support that. And then, as we know, kind of the higher qualifications, the longer the qualification, obviously the more grant that supports that, because we know it's a big undertaking for us as an employer to do that. And that's what that grant is there to do, basically, to help make sure that the training, obviously, is great for the apprentice, but obviously it doesn't undermine the employer at the same time.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've looked at how you get an apprentice, understand where the apprentice goes. So let's get to the nitty gritty and talk about the cash. So I was interested, because just going back to you for a minute, Carla, in terms of the NEST team, do I have to be a registered CITB company to access that?
You do,
It's the first thing,
unfortunately.
right? No, that's fine.
Well, fortunately, unfortunately, you know, obviously, I suppose the more what we're trying to do at CITB is obviously be more valuable, obviously, to companies. Hence the reason we ask them to register. So obviously, if you do, that you get more and you get more support, and that's part of it.
And I think it's something we encourage all our clients to do as well. You know, to actually register, and because you're there to help them. You know, and it's as I say, the funding's there. And I can't, and the number of times I've talked to clients who pay levy and don't claim anything, it's just like, you've joined the gym, you've not gone, and you complain and you're not getting fit. You know what I mean? It's like, why would you do that? You know, and it's just unbelievable. So anyway, so let's talk about the funding then. So I'm going to come back to you, Carla, if that's all right, because obviously there's funding from the CITB, and then we'll come back to you, like Nikki, and then just see how the college supports that as well. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose that the key things to highlight, so if you are thinking about work experience, first and foremost, so, you know, initially having somebody that you want to try before you actually really recruit them and take them onto your books, there is the £500 grant for a work experience opportunity. That's where you have to have the individual, or you can have up to 5 individuals actually in one session, where you can basically, they have to be with you 30 hours or a week as a minimum, obviously, in terms of the work experience opportunity. If you can provide more time, then that's fantastic. Obviously, that's just a bonus, I think, for you, that you're getting a really good picture of the individuals that are going to come and work with you. If that obviously is a success and you actually take somebody on board on the back of that and you employ them, you have to wait 3 months, and obviously we have to have evidence that they are still employed with you, and then we provide you with £1,000 to say thank you for taking obviously on a young person. One thing to add there, and this is obviously probably where we work sort of in conjunction with the colleges, is this is actually somebody that's been in full-time education or had some form of education support. So this is absolutely about trying to encourage young people who have chosen to go into the construction sort of arena, giving them that opportunity to have, you know, a chance in the world of work, because that's what they came into it for. And obviously kind of the bigger picture here for people to be mindful of is this is a really good outcome as well for schools to be mindful of. You know, if they see that you know, if they go to this particular college really makes sure that they have work experience and they get jobs at the end of it, that's really great kind of information for young people to think about in terms of their next career steps, and that's good for us. So kind of that aside, in terms of apprenticeships, basically we have, there's kind of 2 grants really. So the kind of key one is the main apprenticeship grant, which is obviously £2,500 a year, and that's for attendance. And that's actually payable obviously over a 13-week period. So obviously that grant is paid to you once the apprentice starts. And as long as the apprentice completes, you receive £3,500 on that successful completion. And that's making sure that you have the achievement certificates to prove that. So that's a total of £8,500. If you then obviously have a 3-year apprentice or you take on an advanced apprentice, you receive another obviously £3,500. So in total, you could receive £11,000 in CITB grants to support you recruiting obviously an apprentice. And obviously you get it per apprentice, so it's not obviously just here's a figure, it is per apprentice that comes into your business. One of the things just to also bear in mind is that we've actually added another grant for a particular area, which is interior systems. And so there's a further £2,000 obviously payable to anybody that does an apprenticeship in interior systems as well.
Could I just ask you, what qualifies as interior systems?
So interior systems is kind of it's usually around sort of a shop fitting kind of area, and sometimes, you know, where you're fitting particular things, that's where the interior systems obviously comes into place.
Yeah, it's worth noting as well that interior systems is one of the apprenticeships that we run, and one of our apprentices last year got the gold medal in the skill build, the UK skills competition. So Zara, who you'll see plastered all over the college, because she wins absolutely everything she goes for. She's fantastic, and it's in interior systems.
Yeah, brilliant. Is there anything else on that, Carla, or is that it?
Not well. So I'm going to say hopefully that's enough.
Oh yeah,
just
no,
in
no,
terms
that's
of
fine.
just in terms of apprenticeships, obviously, and I suppose the other added value is, although it's not monetary, it is obviously the support of that nest advisor, and what they will do is they will handhold the employer all the way through the process. So this isn't just something that we do at the start. We take them through the whole thing. So it's actually providing training in being a mentor, you know, and actually giving the apprentice the best opportunity to succeed. It's also obviously helping the employer we call them health checks. So every 13 weeks, they obviously get in contact with you as an employer to make sure everything is going as swimmingly as it possibly could be. If there's things that are happening within providers and colleges, if we can share that, we can basically be that communication portal to make sure that things go as smoothly. Because sometimes in the past, that's the reason we've lost apprentices and employers, because it's just been really difficult to navigate the arena. And colleges are absolutely, you know, becoming really, really good at supporting obviously apprentices, but we're just giving that extra added value as well for our registered customers.
So have you got anything to add on the funding bit, Nikki?
My only plea is that we know that the startup part of an apprenticeship is complicated. We know that. And we try and simplify it as much as possible, but it's a very complex system that's designed by government, and it's not the most user-friendly, let's put it that way.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's not great. But having said that, if you decide that you want to take on an apprentice, if you can give us an hour of your time, then we can make that process a lot simpler. What we really struggle with is that engagement early on to get the apprentice signed up, go through the paperwork. We can come out to site, we can send you the videos to how you do it yourself. The important thing is that employers have to use the apprenticeship service website. They have to reserve the funding. And if they don't reserve the funding, there's absolutely nothing else we can do. And that's just part of the system now. So you can go onto the apprenticeship service, you can give the college or the training provider the ability to do that work for you, but you have to do that part first of all, and you have to reserve the funding. And if people aren't sure, just engage with the college and they will absolutely walk you through it. The bit that we really struggle with is with micros and SMEs in particular is getting the time with them to do all of that beginning part. And it's really crucial, that part, not just because of the funding, but actually to plan that delivery and making sure that the apprenticeship is right for the employer and the apprentice, and that the training plan is set out.
Yeah, it's actually something we do with our clients, that we'll walk them through it, and we'll even some cases do it for them, exactly. so that we do, because I've had a number where the apprentice has been booked on due to start and they have not gone on the gateway, not filled in the paperwork. The college can't draw down the funding, and it all starts to go. It starts to get a bit manic and a bit kind of stressed. And I think and I think sometimes the way it happens, and this is just me talking, is that I think a lot of, especially SMEs, tend to reactively recruit an apprentice. So it's like they've kind of started on the Monday. They've been in for a couple of days. I think they're going to be okay, and now we want to put them on an apprenticeship.
and that the funding reservation is available for 3 months. You know, prior to the start point. But you're absolutely right. A lot of it is reactionary, and the quicker you can talk to the college and say, I've got this apprentice and I want to get them on program, the better. You know, we can support as much as we possibly can to do that process. The key thing is that communication. There will be a lot of email exchanges, there will be phone calls, there will be ways we can come out and support that. It's just, you know, taking that, if we could take an hour, it would be easy to solve. Yeah,
it's like everything else, isn't it? It's like bad debt and stuff. If you take 20 minutes at the start to sort out the accounts process, you'll probably reduce your bad debt. The same thing applies. Okay, so that brings us nicely on then to the employer's responsibility, because I think a lot of employers tend to throw the apprentice at the college and expect them to turn out this all singing, all dancing, skilled person. Doesn't quite work like that, though, does it, Nikki?
No, it doesn't. No, no, it doesn't. And the reality is, as I said it earlier, they're with the college for 20% of the time, they're with the employer for 80%. And part of that 80% is also about learning the knowledge, skills and behaviours that are part of the apprenticeship standard. And the employer is massively influential in that. And the time that we have with apprentices is very limited. And for some apprentices, that will include their English and math skills as well as their technical skills. So it's as I go back to the beginning of the apprenticeship, when you're setting out that training plan, it needs to be really clear as to what will the college do and what will the employer do, because an apprentice shadowing an employer, watching them do some of those activities, watching them develop the skills, having a go under that supervision, developing the confidence, that will all happen in the workplace, and that's all part of the training and the employer's responsibilities to supporting that young person. And the quicker they can be useful on site, the quicker they develop those skills, the better for the employer and the apprentice. I think it's also the same when people take on perhaps an apprentice who's done a year in a college. I think there's an expectation that the students will be further on in their skills, and they may well be, but there's the amount of time that we get with young people on a study program is very, very limited, because the vast majority will spend at least 6 hours out of the 15 that we have them each week doing English and maths. So you're already shrinking the amount of contact time they'll get in the vocational areas. So they aren't by any stretch the finished article. Particularly on the technical and professional areas, that they aren't, or any apprenticeship to be fair, they aren't the finished article when they're qualified. And when they're finished, you still need that time on the job as an employee.
It's a bit like learning to drive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's you don't actually learn to drive till you take the L plates or the P plates off, and you're actually fair game for everybody. And I think is the thing I would use. Carl, have you got, in terms of the employer's responsibilities from a CITB point of view, well, what would you say?
I absolutely echo what Nikki's just said. Obviously, it isn't something that the college and the apprentice can do alone. But we recognise that as well. And sometimes it's important that we recognise that actually the employer needs some training and support in how to be a good mentor, and obviously, give somebody those opportunities to learn the skills that they need to learn. So, any old school people out there obviously will remember the workplace recorder training that CITB used to do. Well, we've kind of sort of relaunched that, but obviously it's a little bit more jazzy. There's an opportunity for us to do sort of some training, literally 3 hours with the employer, for them to really feel confident and comfortable about being a workplace mentor, and obviously supporting the request of Nikki there in terms of being able to help the apprentice capture the evidence and obviously the skill set that they're learning while they are on the job. And also maybe being helpful in terms of helping that apprentice sort of gather evidence that they can take and that is useful, obviously, for the tutors as well to assess. And so we feel that, well, certainly the feedback that we've had already, Grant, is really positive on this course. And that actually, certainly some of the bigger players have put like all their supervisors on it because it's really well received. But it's not just for obviously large companies, it's for anybody that wants to support an apprentice going forward. So we appreciate there's a big time commitment, but on the reverse side of it, it's proven that once you have an apprentice who is qualified, they become, I think it's £215 per hour more productive for a company, and that's quite a significant outcome. Just in terms of you being supportive and giving them your experience to get them through the apprenticeship.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point too. I think sometimes what happens is that the actual employer doesn't really understand the criteria of the apprenticeship, and that's the first thing I say. If you're going to put somebody through an apprenticeship, you need to understand what they're going to be studying, so you can be either one step ahead or at least level with the apprenticeship in terms of providing them with the work experience that they need. And I think also it's a consistent experience as well, because they tend to be handed from in the case of trades, tradesperson to tradesperson to tradesperson, and they'll, you know, and the apprentice will, and one of the guys will say, "What are you doing it like that for?" Well, that's the way Jim does it. Oh, he knows nothing. You don't do it like that. You do it like I do it. You know, you know, and all you end up with is an apprentice who is totally confused, having to work in 3 different ways with 3 different tradespeople because they think they're the best, rather than actually saying, this is what the apprenticeship asks you to do. And I think it's just as important for the mentors to understand that. Then it's not about them doing it your way. It's about them doing it the way the apprenticeship says it should be done. You know.
I think you're right to a point, but I also think there is obviously there's grey areas, because obviously, you know, sometimes what we do in college, which is understandard, you know, might not always be as realistic on site. So I think there's a grey area there, but absolutely, what we do want is that the employer or the supervisor or whoever the mentor is going to be feels comfortable in supporting the apprentice, and that certainly makes, for me, successful outcomes, and it means that the apprentice achieves, which is really what we're looking for.
Have you got anything to add on that, Nikki?
Yeah, only to reinforce it, you know, apprenticeships are different. You know, they are around the knowledge, skills and behaviours, and we do still get employers who question, well, why isn't this the apprenticeship I did, you know? And you know, the new apprenticeship standards have been written by employer groups and led by employer groups, rightly or wrongly, you know, in terms of some of the content, and those are being reworked through the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education. But they are what we have. But it is the employer understanding the knowledge, skills and behaviours that need to be evidenced as part of that apprenticeship standard. Some apprenticeship standards do not have qualifications, which is very different to the frameworks. So, you know, people do need to understand what the actual curriculum is.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I think we've had a problem with questions in the feed, so we'll need to look at them later. And as I said to you earlier, we'll come back to you directly and answer your lots of questions. So in that case, like the last words though from you, like so Nikki, what would you like to, as a last remark, what would you like to say?
As a last remark, colleges really do want to work with employers. So please do get in touch. Please do contact your local college, your local training provider across your region, because they will welcome you with open arms. Okay,
and Carla?
Mine's a little bit more general. So CITB are absolutely looking to help with recruitment across the board. If that means into apprenticeships, that's fantastic, but obviously also into jobs and outcomes for young people. I really would like, if people are interested, to work with me and my team in the area. We are trying to obviously improve how we make sure that recruitment, shall we say, is easier, but also that we've got the right people coming into the jobs that we need filling. And that's obviously in apprenticeships and obviously just general jobs as well. So if that's something that people are interested in, I really would like to hear from you.
That's great. Okay, so just to conclude, what have we learned this afternoon? Well, we've learned that if you go to your local kind of college, the chances are you may pick up the apprentice that you've been dreaming about all the time. There's also local CITB and NES team that can help you find an apprentice, and it doesn't have to be in a trade. It can be in any role that will help you to take your business going forward. And the best thing of all is there's cash to help. So lastly, it's about your responsibility as an employer. That's the last thing, because you have to be clear on really what that is, because if the apprentice is going to fail, it's probably down to you, that you're partly responsible in the fact that that's happened because you've not supported them as you could. So what I'll say to you now is that's it all for us. If you want any help, come and talk to us. We can certainly put you in touch with Carla and next to Nikki and your local CITB representatives. There's NES teams up and down in the country. We can help you find your local college and put you in touch with them, and act as the middleman. We'll act as the middleman. That's a bit wrong, actually. Should be middle person, shouldn't it? Act as the middle person between you guys and CITB and the colleges. So that's it. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll come back to you with lots of questions. This will be available in the next couple of days for you to have a look at. thanks again, ladies. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.